Opinions stated by various contributors to the Money and Business Show and related programs are not to be considered as endorsed by Radio Shalom, its employees. Visitors to this program are urged to use their own discernment to draw their own conclusions. Please read your prospectus and consult with your own investment advisor.
Live from the studios of Radio Shalom, 1650 AM in Montreal, Canada, the city of Joie de Vivre, the world capital of culinary variety, and the home of the Montreal Canadiens. This is the Money and Business Show with your host, Samuel Ezerzer. Every week, Samuel and his guests discuss money, investments, financial services, and the world economy. Over the next hour, you can have your questions about business and personal finances answered. So call 514-738-4100, extension 200, to speak with Samuel and his guests. And now, here is the host of the Money and Business Show, Samuel Ezerzer.
Money, money, and business. While at HSBC, he uncovered, analyzed, and reported terrorist financing and national security threats to the United States government. This man's name is Everett Stern, is the chief whistleblower in the HSBC money laundering scandal and guides a strategic vision of Tactical Rapid Inc. as their CEO. While at HSBC, he uncovered, analyzed, and reported terrorist financing and national security threats to the United States government. When HSBC suppressed Stern's report, he left and founded Tactical Rabbit. He describes the criminal methods used by HSBC to launder money for terrorist groups, including Hamas and Hezbollah and many others, as well as for the drug cartels and other criminals. My name is Samuel Ezerzer, your host of the Money and Business Show on Radio Shalom, CJRS 1650 AM. Thank you for tuning in live on the Money and Business Show with our business studios headquarters in Montreal, the financial capital, and the home of the greatest hockey team. That's right, the Montreal Canadiens. We have another great show for you today. And as always, you can call or you can ask questions, comments, or you can even send criticism by email at moneyandbusinessshow@gmail.com if you have any inquiries. You can also visit our website at the www.radio-shalom.ca. All our archives will be there. Today's topic is HSBC is still laundering money for terrorist groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the drug lords. Today in Florida, we have Everett Stern is a chief whistleblower in the HSBC exclusive interview. He'll tell all on the Money Business Show. I want everybody to listen. Today, again, we have Mr. Everett Stern, is the chief whistleblower of the money laundering scandal and guides the strategic vision of Tactical Rabbit Inc. CEO. While at HSBC, he uncovered, analyzed, and reported terrorist activities. When HSBC, again, suppressed Stern's report, they found him and they fired him. Mr. Stern emerged into the public eye after his experience at HSBC. He went public. Everett has received extensive media coverage, appearing in the U.S. and international newspapers. He was featured in a pair of special reports issued by Reuters on HSBC terrorist money laundering, and specifically HSBC's involvement in the African supermarkets transaction with ties to Hezbollah, which he personally uncovered and reported. He was also featured in the Rolling Stones magazine in the article by Matt Tibby titled "Gangster Bankers, Too Big to Fail." Got to read that. He was hired to perform due diligence on HSBC International Banking customers for suspected money laundering and terrorist activities. Everett's due diligence promptly uncovered highly suspicious wire activity and questionable practices within his own department. Unwilling to allow the highly suspicious activity to continue unchecked, he proceeded to report his findings to multiple government agencies. Everett Stern's actions have been commended by the United States government. Mr. Stern graduated from Stetson University with the Master's Business of Administration. Again, today's topic is HSBC is still laundering money for terrorist groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, and drug lords. Today I have Adam Eidelman, attorney at the Legal Logic and Ticket Aid, joining us today. How are you?
Doing very well, thank you. How are you?
Today we have a great topic today. I mean, could you believe it? The untouchable. The banks are the untouchable. They can do whatever they want.
This is a very explosive subject matter. I got to watch out what I say during this show.
You know, the world is listening because I really advertised it. But you know, when you have banks, international banks, and they do business here in the United States or in Canada, and they supply, wire money to and access to the banks. I mean, what else am I going to go? I'm going to be funny a little bit here, and I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to go to HSBC, and what they're going to give me is maybe a bag of marijuana or something here to open up an account or something, I mean, what else is going to go on here?
I'm very interested to hear all of the ramifications and the innuendos and everything Mr. Stern has to report.
Yes. Welcome to our bank. Here is a bag of marijuana here, or something like that.
I don't know if we're going to. I don't know if we're going to go that far. But let's stick to what we know.
Yeah, we're going to stick to what we know. How are you? How are you, Mr. Stern? How you doing?
Good, good. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Hello, Mr. Stern. Adam Eidelman here, attorney at law.
Yes, that's right.
How are you doing, sir?
It's a pleasure speaking with you.
We have a great team today, and I want to thank you for joining us. I know you're in Florida. I know it's about as hot as in Montreal, because it's a hot day today here in Montreal. And by the way, I think, if I'm not mistaken, if I've been reading correct, I think a couple of weeks ago you were in Washington, right? If I'm not correctly.
Right.
And how come you were in Washington?
I was meeting with the chairwoman of the House Finance Committee.
And what happened?
We had about a 2.5-hour meeting, and where I discussed. Well, first, I was contacted by the House Finance Committee. I did not reach out to them.
Okay. Right.
And they're looking to pursue a new investigation into HSBC, and I informed them of everything that's going on and still going on, and they went to Eric Holder the following week.
And this is what we're going to do. We're going to be listening to a clip of Eric Holder, and this what surprises me, and I'm sure a lot of listeners are going to be surprised when he says this, these banks are just too big to prosecute in jail. Go ahead. Mr. Stern, this is about HSBC. How could someone in our government say that some banks are just too big to prosecute or jail? They're basically saying banks run the world and they can commit crimes whenever they want. If they try to stop it, we will ruin the world's economy. Could you just give us some sense to what's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, it's disgusting. I mean, Holder is saying that if we prosecute, it could lead to a financial crisis. But I think it needs to be understood here that if we allow terrorist financing to continue, and there's another 9/11, I can promise you that's going to cause another financial crisis. So I think this is a national security issue, and Eric Holder has an obligation and a duty, to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And he has an obligation to prosecute these people and send them to jail. I mean, if I were to donate $1 to Hamas or Hezbollah, I'd go to jail for life. I mean, where's the equality in that? There's no justice there. Mm-hmm. But again, it's not just a matter of justice. It's a matter of preventing terrorist attacks and preventing these animals from from killing us. This is not a normal banking scandal. This money is going to buying IEDs. It's going to fund car bombs in Israel. I mean, this is very, very serious. And what Eric Holder is doing is allowing people to get killed.
Yes, and we know that. Just tell us a little bit what happened. We have a couple of minutes here. I'm sure we're going to go into the next break, but just tell us a little bit what happened. How did you sort it all out? How did you find about these, crooked dealings and so on at HSBC?
Well, before I started at HSBC, I was a candidate at the clandestine service, which didn't make me any better or less of a anti-money laundering compliance officer, but HSBC didn't know that when they hired me.
You had no prior knowledge of any type of compliance dealings in the securities business. Is that it? before?
No, yeah.
Zero?
No, zero.
Okay.
So what I did was, when I got there on October 18th of 2010, I went to the University of Delaware Library, because the anti-money laundering facility was in Newcastle, Delaware, and I checked out probably about 25 books on money laundering. And I used to get up early in the morning and stay up late at night reading the books, teaching myself money laundering, and yeah, I mean, I figured out what they were doing, and then 3 weeks in November, I sent my first email to the CIA, and I started passing information to the CIA for over a year. And the reason why I did that was because HSBC hired the director. The director of the department was a former counterintelligence FBI agent who was kind of pulling the strings on the whole department, and I felt the FBI was compromised. And because I was a candidate for the clandestine service, I have tremendous respect for the CIA, and I wanted to, these are international entities and foreign intelligence, and they needed to be notified. But yeah, I mean, this stuff was pretty blatant, though. I mean, when I showed, it's not like, I'm not a genius by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, what happened was that when I showed up, there were maybe 15 compliance officers in the whole bank, and none of them knew what they were doing. And I was part of the first.
You know what? I really can't believe what I'm hearing. Hiring compliance officers who don't even know anything. I mean, But you know what? Just keep on that thought. We're going to go to a station break. Okay. This is a fantastic issue here. And also very explosive. Today's topic is HSBCs are still laundering money to terrorist groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the drug lords.
We're back live in studio with Samuel Ezerzer in the business headquarters of Radio Shalom, 1650 AM in Montreal, with the Money and Business Show. You have questions about your personal finances? You need advice in making sound financial decisions? Samuel and his guests are ready to take your call at 514-738-4100, extension 200. And now, back to the Money and Business Show.
Yes, we're back live in Florida as Mr. Everett Stern is the chief whistleblower in the HSBC money laundering scandal. Also, he owns the CEO of Tactical Rabbit Inc. And today's topic is HSBC is still laundering money for terrorist groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the drug lords, and God knows maybe all the bad people in the world. Mr. Everett, Everett, you send a letter to the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Ben Bernanke, of blatant repeated violations and systematic anti-money laundering. So what was the result of that letter, and what happened?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I didn't send the letter. My attorneys did. I mean, I have one of the largest whistleblowing law firms in the country backing me, and they sent. We filed. We're not filing a lawsuit against HSBC. We're filing for a new investigation. We filed with the Department of Justice, and we filed with the Treasury, the OCC, and nothing came of it. And what happening was it wasn't until a couple congressmen saw my speech in New York, that's when the attention came to be, and then I was called by the House Finance Committee. But the documents were going nowhere.
So the chief, the Federal Reserve, Mr. Ben Bernanke, received your letter and to deaf ears, right? Just deaf ears.
Yeah. Right.
Like if nothing happened, like if it was just maybe $1,000 sent wired to somewhere in Saudi Arabia, just about it, not like, I don't know, billions of dollars. Is that it?
Yeah, they don't care.
Wow.
The thing is that
Wow.
What's not being understood here is how HSBC defrauded the government, and let me explain exactly how they did that.
Go ahead.
So there was a cease and desist order in 2000. Well, there were multiple, but there's one in 2010, and that's when I came in. They hired me to fix the problem. And when I showed up, there were about 15 compliance officers who had no idea what they were doing. And what they did was they had to show the government that that they built this huge anti-money laundering compliance program. So the former counterintelligence FBI guy, what they came up with was they sold off their credit card division to Capital One, fired all these customer service reps and debt collectors, and then rehired them about a week later as anti-money laundering compliance officers.
Wait, time out. You mean all those customer service people that we talked to for the Capital One, for the credit cards, they were hired as experts in compliance issues?
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, boy. Okay.
And they're still there now. And also what they did was they opened up operations in Sri Lanka and India. In fact, if you go online, you can see I'm telling the truth. There's actual job openings in Sri Lanka for anti-money laundering officers to approve American transactions. And what's even crazier about this is that, ironically, HSBC considers Sri Lanka to be a high-risk money laundering country. So why would they open up operations there? It doesn't make any sense. But this is not something really to outsource. But these people, these debt collectors are still approving transactions as we speak. And again, we're talking about billions of dollars going to terrorist organizations. This is very, very serious. This is an absolute threat because the terrorists want to use the almighty dollar against us. So when a terrorist wants to get explosives to use in a car bomb in Tel Aviv, they want U.S. dollars to buy those explosives. It's just that's the hard currency. So they're laundering money through HSBC Bank USA, and they're converting into U.S. dollars. For instance, if I can just explain the Hezbollah connection I found.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. If you can expand upon that a little bit for our listeners, please.
Yeah, so in Gambia and Sierra Leone, there's in Africa, there's a whole bunch of supermarkets called Kariba supermarkets. You can see online; they're still open, which is incredible. We haven't drone them, but Kariba supermarkets is a front for Tajiko.
How do you spell that? Sorry, Everett. How do you spell that?
Sure, it's Tajco.
Okay, Tajiko supermarket.
Right.
Okay.
So, and I'll explain how the money was allowed, how the criminal manipulation of the wire filter occurred, and how the money got there in a second. But so what happened was that it's a front for Tajiko, which is owned by the Tajaim brothers, which are financiers for Hezbollah. So what Kariba Supermarkets is doing is collecting. They're making millions upon millions of dollars in Africa, and then they're taking that money and they're sending it to Lebanon to be used for, Katyusha rockets and whatever else they want to use against Israel and the United States. See, HSBC is supposed to be stopping these transactions, so there's a thing called a wire filter, which lists the names of terrorist groups, organizations, companies that we can't do business with.
Right.
So what I saw that these payments were going through. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars here. And I was like, how are these payments going through? And what happened, what I saw is that the FBI later called it stripping the payments. But what they did was they were adding dots and dashes and hyphens into the coding of the actual wire, so the payment wouldn't match in the wire filter, and the wires would go through. And this is what's going on, and that is beyond a federal offense. That is insane.
Everett, if I could chime in, Adam Eidelman here again. My question for you would be, as an attorney, did you contact or did you have any contact with their in-house counsel? Because HSBC, as a multinational, must have a plethora. They must have an army of lawyers. I'm just curious what the attorney's position, were or was or is. If you can shed light on that, please.
Sure. Well, they've admitted to everything I'm saying. They admitted literally to funding the enemy. That was one of the charges, which is incredible to me how they're still in existence after treason. But
wow.
But HSBC attorneys have notified my attorneys that they want to, prosecute me criminally and sue me for stealing the documents from them. And to be honest with you, I really don't care because I'm a federal witness. I did this to protect the United States. That's my objective. I didn't sell the documents. I turned them over to the CIA and the FBI. So, the only message I have for HSBC is good luck on that one. But And if I could just make another comment that this counterintelligence FBI agent who was running the department, I think he needs to go back to the academy because I got passed as a counterintelligence for over a year. And also, if I can comment, that you made one misstatement, though. I was not fired from HSBC. That's not what happened. They paid me $27,500 to leave.
Oh, is that what? Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know that. It wasn't in the...
Thank you for clarifying, Everett.
I want to thank you for clarifying that. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's all right.
I thought maybe because you were the whistleblower, so they fired you. You know, I assumed.
No. I left because of what HSBC did is they turned this. They said that I was a racist against Muslims because I was a Jew, and that what they failed to grasp was that I'm not a racist against Muslims. I'm a racist against terrorists. There's a difference. So, several very serious anti-Semitic comments were made to me, including a manager telling me I should wear a yellow star around the office. They thought that was a funny joke, and having half my family killed in the Holocaust, I didn't find that too funny.
Not at all.
So that's what kind of led to me filing a discrimination complaint against them, and that's what ended for me with me parting. Now, the only thing I'll say about that as to why I'm upset that happened was because I needed to gather more intelligence on HSBC. So I would have liked to stay longer just so I could gather more of a case.
You know what? Just hold on to that thought. We have Adam. Adam wanted to say something.
Everett, I just wanted to know if you could basically comment on the pending lawsuit that you had with HBC. Is it, first of all, what is the state of that lawsuit for the discriminatory behavior of your former employer? I know that you launched a lawsuit. Are you able to comment, or is it still pending?
No, comment on anything you guys want. This is the thing: is I have no. I hold nothing back because I have nothing to lose, well, what I was told is going to happen is that when I comment on the discrimination lawsuit, which was settled before it hit lawsuit, but was that they could sue me for the money back that they gave me, $27,500. Now, if they want the money back, go for it. Okay, fine. But it's not,
So just to clarify, sorry to cut you off, just to clarify for our listeners, that lawsuit basically was settled out of court.
Yeah, I found a discrimination attorney, and we just had charges that we filed with the HR department, and the person who said that I should wear a yellow star around the office. Other people heard it. They admitted to saying it, and that was it. They said, okay, we'll give you this money and walk.
Everett,
they didn't know at the time I had all this information. Yeah.
Everett, we're just going to go into a commercial. We have Everett Stern, chief whistleblower in the HSBC money laundering scandal. We're going to be hearing a clip now, a very funny clip on Mike of the too big to jail HSBC fined rather than being criminals. This is Mike Kaiser, very funny. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. Topic today is HSBC is still laundering money for terrorist groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the drug lords. Again, this is what makes me mad. All of you, I know a lot of our listeners are probably, I think they're shocked. Brian, I'm looking at you. Brian Wolofsky, one of our commentators, also political commentator, is shocked. But you're not shocked at all of what's going on in the banking system.
No, I'm not shocked at all by anything Everett says.
Or even what Everett's saying.
No, I'm livid, but I'm hardly shocked. My question would be, what can people do about it? And clearly, in terms of the U.S. government, nobody can do anything about it because the U.S. government simply has ceased to exist in any.
It doesn't matter if it's Republican or Democrat. Is that it? It doesn't matter.
No, it always matters. It's always
no,
the
it doesn't matter. I think it's both. Right.
We both know it's the Republicans' fault.
Yeah. Okay.
Unfortunately, all our listeners know that.
If I could chime in, I think Everett's a Republican. I don't know if we want to go down that alley.
No.
Well, he's right about this.
Yeah, go.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If I could just say, so I mean, I'm a conservative Republican, but the thing is that this definitely transcends political issues, and this is why I went down to Occupy Wall Street. I disagree with pretty much everything Occupy Wall Street says. I mean, and they're very left. they care and they're willing to get off, get out there with signs and protest, and the enemy of my enemy is my friend. To answer your question, though, I just want to say there's two things here of action and what people can do, and me just preface what I'm about to say with, as you see that I'm saying a lot of things here that can get me into. I'm sure HFC will sue me after this interview even more, and I'm sure the government is not too happy I'm disclosing a lot of this information. But because right now, what my attorneys have notified me was that I could get up to a $600 million reward for my whistleblowing efforts. And to be perfectly honest with you, I really don't care. And the reason why I don't care is because I care about the country, and I'm doing this because it's a national security issue. I don't care about the money. So it's never about the money.
Can I just stop you right there? You said you're going to be rewarded $600 million for whistleblowing. I just want to...
It's possible. I mean, the lawyers told me that if I release the information I'm releasing now, I could flush it. It could go away. I could lose the reward money, but I don't care. I want to make this issue public so the public's aware, so action can be taken. Again, I didn't do this. I didn't start passing information to the CIA in November of 2010 so I could get reward money. That's not my objective here. So going back to the political commentator's question about action, what needs to happen is that people need to become aware of what's going on. That's my mission, and they need to pull their money out of HSBC Bank. In fact, I've named the date, November 1st of 2013, where it's Pull Your Money Out of HSBC Bank Day, because any Jew or Christian or any good person that has money with HSBC, that money is being used to sponsor terror and drug cartels.
But here's my problem,
your money out.
Everett, here's my problem. It's Brian again. My problem is the complete lack of shock that I have and the total cynicism I have is the banks are all, for lack of a better word, prostitutes for money. So, J.P. Morgan, Royal Bank of Canada, Toronto Dominion, Barclays,
Goldman Sachs.
Goldman Sachs. I suspect they'll all do anything for a profit. I know that you only know about Hong Kong, Shanghai, but I would assume that they're all doing it as well. Can you comment on that? If you take your money out of Hong Kong, Shanghai, where are you going to put it? Aren't they all, for lack of a better term, money prostitutes anyway?
That's a great question. No, of course they are. But the thing is that what HSBC's behavior is very different, though, from the other banks, because what HSBC is doing, their compliance program, their anti-money laundering compliance program, is that there is no anti-money laundering compliance program. It's all a sham. So it's complete defrauding of the government, where the system, it's a culture that is geared towards helping terrorist organizations, and that's the problem here. So when you're talking about J.P. Morgan or Goldman Sachs, their culture is to are they going to make mistakes, and are some wires going to get through to people who shouldn't get them? Of course, nothing's perfect, but they're making a concerted effort and have legitimate people, approving those transactions or disproving them. HSBC is intentionally trying to do business with these terrorists because they're making more money doing business with them, and HSBC is in a position to do that because they're the world's, as HSBC says, they're the world's local bank. So they have offices in all these different countries, including Iran, where they can take this money and then launder it through their system and launder it through HSBC Bank USA. And that's the difference here, is that HSBC is really a criminal organization where these other banks are prostitutes for the money, but at least they're running legitimate compliance programs.
Okay, I hear you. Now I'm going to ask you one other question.
Sure.
As you probably know, at one time for a long period, the largest shareholder of HSBC was an Iraqi Jew named Lawrence Kaddouri. So my question to you is, Are these things being instigated by HSBC, the London, Hong Kong bank there, or is it really Marine Midland, the American bank? And that same goes to the question about the anti-Semitism that you experienced in Florida. Were these really Marine Midland employees or HSBC employees?
Sure. Well, I didn't experience it in Florida. I'm just here on vacation in Florida. But, yeah, the actual anti-money laundering facility is in Newcastle, Delaware. That's the main facility. But no, this is from the higher-ups at HSBC. I mean, I made several trips to New York. I mean, the entire operation of HSBC, I mean, this is the entire, the anti-Semitism, the sponsoring of terror. All this comes from the highest of the high, because they're creating this sham anti-money laundering compliance program. Let me give you a good example. So the head of one of the heads of compliance for HSBC is a guy named Gary Peterson. So what Gary has decided to do, and if he's listening, I give him my best. But what Gary's decided to do is he took his own consulting firm called IMAG, which was owned by his wife. And I reported this to the FBI. So Gary, I'm sure you'll be hearing from the FBI soon on this. But he took these consultants and he had them monitoring the quality assurance of the actual anti-money laundering compliance program. So now you have the anti-money laundering compliance program, which now has a quality assurance team, which is owned by the guy who implemented the program. And then they're showing the government we have great quality assurance. But, I mean, did you see the conflict of interest there?
Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm just gonna lay this out as a discussion here because this sounds like Scarface. You ever seen Scarface, the movie? You know, the bag.
Brian De Palma.
It's worse.
I think it
sounds like the bankings and securities
the Chazin brothers,
today.
the drug dealers, the Sinolas, the Lazetas, the Russian mobsters here. Oh my God, what's going on here? This is total craziness here.
But wait,
total crazy. This is. The word Michigan.
But Sam, it's no different than Moody's and S&P being paid by Company X setting out an IPO to have Moody's give them a rating on their IPO. It's the same conflict. It's the same crap.
Right. It's the whole industry. Well, I agree. Sorry to cut you off, Everett. I think Brian, what he's alluding to is that the whole industry, not just the banking industry, the entire financial industry needs a little bit of remodeling. If I could just chime in, Everett, and ask you a question. Since you've departed, obviously you're no longer in communication, I would imagine, with people at HSBC. Objectively, how can you kind of summarize or how could you summarize the situation now, or how would you be aware of what measures HSBC has taken to remedy the situation maybe in 2013?
That's a great question. Well, what happened was that in 2010, that was when HSBC had to remedy the issue. So the deferred prosecution agreement. And this is the big news. The deferred prosecution agreement only covers up until 2010. Eric Holder did not include my evidence, so my evidence is post 2010. So they were never held accountable criminally, and this is why HSBC is nervous now, because they were never held accountable for the crimes they committed past 2010. So in 2013. Right now, the systems are in place that the systems are in place that were established in 2010, 2011. Because what happened was at the end of 2010, HSBC said, "Okay, here's how we fix the problem," right? And they did it by, of course, as I told you, by hiring debt collectors and customer service reps. So they didn't tell that to the government, and the government said, "Oh, okay, great," and that was it. So. I mean, also, there are people inside the bank who still inform me of what's going on. And, yeah, I mean, it's
so
a very,
Okay, you know what? We're going to go to a station break, Everett. This is just a whole lot of crazy information here. I mean,
We're back, live in studio with Samuel Ezerzer in the business headquarters of Radio Shalom, 1650 AM in Montreal, with the Money and Business Show. You have questions about your personal finances? You need advice in making sound financial decisions? Samuel and his guests are ready to take your call at 514-738-4100, extension 200. And now, back to the Money and Business Show.
We're back. A topic that is very explosive, very hot here, exclusive here in on the Money and Business Show on Radio Shalom CJRS 1650 AM in Montreal. Today's topic is HSBC is still laundering money for terrorist groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, and all the drug lords. We have Everett Stern, chief whistleblower of the HSBC. Everett, during the summer of 2011, I know management set a weekly minimum of 72 alerts per week. What happened there? I'm trying to understand. These are alerts that went out. These are like red alerts that went out, but they asked you to stamp them down. Is that right?
Well, yeah. So let me kind of explain the process. So what happens is that there's an alert monitoring system, where, so for instance, if you go and you wire money to a suspicious person in Saudi Arabia or something, an alert will be generated. And HSBC replaced that system with a system called Norcom, which is a web-based application. And once the alert is generated, it goes to a compliance officer or debt collector at HSBC, and what happens is that they have to determine whether or not it's SARable or not. So a SAR is a suspicious activity report, which is a report that goes to the Treasury Department, where the Treasury can then investigate. Now, the whole point of an AML program is to facilitate SARs, because the government needs to be notified. So the problem with a SAR, though, is that it takes a long time to write. So what HSBC figured out was that they had huge backlogs of alerts, and that's why they had to bring in debt collectors and customer service reps, because they had such a backlog that they had to clear these alerts. So they made a mandate to do 72 a week, which was crazy. And I said to my manager Jeff Kraft, who was later fired, that we need to focus on quality and not quantity. And he said, Everett, find a way to pull it off. And that was the thing, is it was just about clearing alerts. And the reason why that internal email is important is because it shows that they were not SAR focused. They were just focused on clearing alerts. And that's why they also had catered lunches every day, breakfast, because they kept us late. They provided bonuses for how many alerts you cleared. It wasn't about finding suspicious activity. It was just about clearing the alerts, because if you waited 30 days on an alert, it could be reported to the government that it wasn't being taken care of, and the regulators would come in. So they just wanted to get rid of the alerts.
So, Everett, they had 72 alerts, and they tried to, they tried to tell you, try to take it out, try to take it out of the system, or do what you have to do to mitigate it. Is that it?
Well, they had a backlog at one point of 50,000 alerts. They had a backlog of 100,000 alerts, 150,000. We're talking hundreds of thousands of alerts. So what they did was they said, okay, you need to produce a minimum. You need to clear a minimum of 72 alerts a week.
What does that mean, to clear?
Yeah, this is what I'm trying to understand. What do you mean to clear? Is it to let?
Yeah, how do you make it go away?
Sure. Okay. So you get an alert, right? So an alert will have, let me walk you guys through the process a little bit. So you have an alert which has an originator and a beneficiary, right? So you send money to somebody, they're the beneficiary, and you're the originator. So with this alert, what you have to do is perform due diligence and mitigate your risk by researching the parties and making sure it's a legitimate transaction and they're not terrorists. So what HSBC wanted was 72 alerts of those to be cleared, which means that they would be investigated and the transactions would be approved. Now, let's say, though, something was suspicious, right? A SAR would have to be written, which would take up time. So what HSBC figured out, and I told this to Congress, what HSBC figured out was to create a watch system. So this way, an investigator could put an alert on watch. So they don't have to SAR it, but they could watch it. So it like creates a flag on it. And so what these debt collectors were doing, they just kept putting things on watch over and over and over again, so nothing had to be SAR'd, but it still cleared the alert. So the word cleared means it goes out of the system. Like it's not part of that backlog anymore.
So that you're watching it, which is to say not watching it.
Correct. So they found ways to, again, defraud the system and make things look like the work was being done when there was no work being done. I mean,
like Crossbar, right? A company called Crossbar. I'm reading a letter that you sent out. I have intelligence to provide to CIA regarding money laundering. I'm currently working on an anti-money laundering officer for foreign banks. I came across a case late last week. You caught my attention. Blah 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 blah. Goes on. A company called Crossbar FX in the UK sent a wire, and it caught your attention. What happened there?
Yeah. So with Crossbar was that. Crossbar is an MSB, which is a money servicing business. So like Western Union, anywhere where you can go and give them cash and then they wire it for you, that's called a money servicing business. So Crossbar FX, what was complicated with this transaction that I saw, or transactions, was that they were dealing with other MSBs, or money servicing businesses. So you had, like, for instance, Western Union giving money, just for example, giving money to Crossbar, and then Crossbar was giving it to another MSB, and then they were sending it to multiple parties throughout the Middle East. Now, we're talking, again, $40, $50 million. The problem with this is that you can't see who the originator or beneficiaries are. There's just absolutely, there's just no way. So
right, so that brings up the question, Everett, that you were talking about they had to get 100,000 alerts out of the system. How the hell do you investigate 100,000 alerts? It's not like John Smith sending it to his uncle Bill Jones in England. It's someone in wherever that is, sending it to someone else, and you have no idea if that someone else is sending it to someone in Pakistan and then to Tajikistan. How do you investigate that, much less 100,000 of them? How do you do it?
Well, the thing is that in a normal compliance program, you're able, actual due diligence is done, but HSBC didn't have. Again, it was a perverted culture of just trying to get the alerts out. So let me give you another example. And all these transactions were also approved, but there was a company. There's a company called Sharbati Fruit in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. That was sending millions and millions of dollars to a PEP, which is a politically exposed person in Yemen. And this caught my eye, being the specialist in Middle Eastern transactions for the department, which I really had no qualifications for. Because I researched it, and this person in Yemen was a leading member of the political party in Yemen for the Muslim Brotherhood. I expressed these concerns, and all transactions approved. But in another example, I wrote a what the U.S. Congress and what the FBI really took note at was an email that I sent to the directors called Compliance Error, where all these debt collectors were approving transactions going into Gaza, and I explained to them in this email, internal email, which I still have, that says that Gaza is controlled by Hamas, which is a terrorist organization, and we need to stop this. And and the Reuters article highlighted this, but Jeff Kraft threatened to fire me over this, and he said we're under a cease and desist order. You can't put that in writing. And I said, well, Jeff, this is a terrorist organization. He goes, no, they were elected to power. And I said, well, yeah, they were elected to power, but they're still a terrorist organization. It doesn't make a difference if they were elected. So all transactions approved. I was told the exact words out of his mouth was that Hamas is not a terrorist organization. That's what I was dealing with there. And that goes back to your previous question of, is this happening at other banks? I don't think at Goldman Sachs they're saying Hamas is a terrorist organization.
You know what, Everett? I think we have maybe about a minute. What do you have to say to our listeners at Radio Shalom CJRS 1650 in Montreal, Canada, and the world who's listening? About a minute.
Sure. I first off want to thank Chabad tremendously, because they saved me on this. Because when I was working, I was in business school down in Florida, Stetson. I went to the Chabad of Ormond Beach, and the rabbi there, they gave me the strength and the understanding, of Judaism to really be able to pull this off.
And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for that. And
I would also like to thank you. I commend you, by the way, Everett, for your courage. I know we're running out of time, but I commend you for your intestinal fortitude and for standing up to an institution like that. This is Adam Eidelman, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. If I could say just one more quick comment, that the Chabad in Delaware, they helped me tremendously, because they were the only ones actually who knew what I was doing by passing information to the CIA, and they were my social structure and support and my family, and that was just tremendous, and I thank them for that.
And I want to thank you for explaining to us an explosive issue here, and this is all madness. But anyways, thank you, Everett. Everett Stern is a chief whistleblower in the HSBC money laundering scandal, and also he is the CEO of Tactical Rabbit. I want to thank Adam Eidelman and also Brian Wolofsky. My name is Samuel Ezerzer for the Money Mission on Radio Shalom, CJRS 1650 AM in Montreal. Happy capitalism. God bless you all.
Shalom AM, money and business. Sam Ezerzer, let's get 'em. Oh, it won't be long before that money hits you. You reach a certain point where that money is an issue. Tax cut, inflation, learn about investment. Shoot another perfect show that can help them. Shalom AM, I'll be tuning in live. Sam Ezerzer, got the advice for you and I. Kick your feet up, listen to the speaker. Got questions, no sweat, take that number. It's real easy, it's 514-738-4100. Get connected, hit that extension at 200. Money and business, that's what I'm talking about. Money, money and business.
Opinions stated by various contributors to the Money and Business Show and related programs are not to be considered as endorsed by Radio Shalom, its employees. Visitors to this program are urged to use their own discernment to draw their own conclusions. Please read your prospectus and consult with your own investment advisor.